two presidents who want the world to know that they are on the same page. Today, the leaders of China and Russia promised each other deeper ties with, quote, no limits. Vladimir Putin met with Xi Jinping in Beijing in a choreographed show of solidarity just hours before the opening ceremonies of the Winter Olympics. And they sent a message to the West as well, that they are unified in their opposition to NATO expansion.
We called this a month ago, and now we actually have proof. Ukraine just captured 2 Chinese soldiers fighting for Russia inside of Ukrainian territory. It seems that it's Putin who's risking World War III as he involves more and more countries to fight for Russia. This is the clip of the Chinese soldiers that President Zelensky just put out.
然后我的 commander， boom， 然后就，哇。 然后就啊，然后我呀啊，然后他就就跟那个走到地方，boom.
He also put out this statement along with the video. Our military has captured 2 Chinese citizens who were fighting as part of the Russian army. This happened on Ukrainian territory in Donetsk region. Identification documents, bank cards, and personal data were found in their possession. We have information suggesting that there are many more Chinese citizens in the occupiers unit than just these 2. We are currently verifying all the facts. Intelligence, the security service of Ukraine, and relevant units of the armed forces are working on it. I have instructed the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine to immediately contact Beijing and clarify how China intends to respond to this. Russia's involvement of China along with other countries, whether directly or indirectly, in this war in Europe is a clear signal that Putin intends to do anything but end the war. He is looking for ways to continue fighting. This definitely requires a response from the United States, Europe, and all those around the world who want peace. The captured Chinese citizens are now in custody of Security Service of Ukraine. Relevant investigative and operational actions are ongoing. Now, if it's confirmed that these are official Chinese soldiers, then the escalation would be immense, because publicly China has always said that it's a neutral party in this war. Now, we all know that that's not true, but that's the public stance that CCP has taken. And that shows that even China knows that Russia is the aggressor in this war, and they don't want to publicly support Russia. That's why their public stance is they are a neutral party. Now, under the table, they are most definitely helping the Russian war machine, not just by buying oil, but also by supplying Russia with drone components, drones itself, and much more. Now, Ukrainian investigation is still ongoing, and I'm sure other countries will get involved too, including Beijing itself, so we'll have more information soon. But Chinese troops in Ukraine is nothing new. In fact, a month ago, we covered this news where we had a report where China was debating sending its troops into Ukraine to gain experience for any future war the CCP wants to start. Back then, we had this clip from eastern Ukraine where Russian channels were showing Chinese troops who were drawing Chinese letters on the wall in occupied Ukrainian territory. Here's the clip.
Okay.
Now, roughly a month ago, a bombshell report came out from the Center of National Resistance. And in that report, they shared that China was reportedly negotiating with Russia regarding the participation of its military in the war against Ukraine on Russia's side. This was China following North Korea's example. And we knew this was going to happen. The world did not react as they should have when North Korea got involved, and now we see more and more countries are getting involved in this war, and they're getting involved with soldiers on Russia's side. North Korea was the first foreign country to send its troops and put boots in the ground in a European war, and everyone just kinda ignored it. No one saw it as an escalation. No one saw this as something that could lead to World War III, and it seems now we have taken another step. Anyways, getting back to the report, China's goal with this deal was not to get money like North Korea. China is not as desperate about Russian money as North Korea is. China actually has a much bigger economy than Putin. But what China really wanted was to have have its soldiers gain combat experience in temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. This could be because maybe China is planning something of their own when it comes to Taiwan. This is exactly why Ukraine wants the world, especially US and Europe, to respond appropriately if it's confirmed that these are official Chinese soldiers.
Well, then you have a scenario where you have not one but two of the world's major powers helping each other in the continued invasion of a sovereign European country, where its traditional Western counterpart, America, as of now is less interested in supporting Ukraine in the long term. Now, the Trump administration has said it is prioritizing China as part of its foreign policy going forward in terms of its potential aggression towards Taiwan or other ambitions and balances of power. And so if it is proved, and it's not been yet, if it is proved that China is directly helping Moscow in a military sense, it's thought in some expert corners that it is, but there's certainly a deepening relationship there, then President Zelensky will pose the direct question as to what the West, America, is going to do to counteract it.
Now, it's not been confirmed yet, but we already have a statement from the State Department here in the United States. It's not the strongest statement, but let's look at it anyways. The US is aware of Chinese military personnel captured by Ukrainian forces. They were participating in the war on the side of Russia, and State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce said this: "This is alarming. North Korea's involvement raises concerns, and it is troubling that Chinese soldiers were captured. China is a key source of support for Russia and the war in Ukraine," the spokesperson stated. That's all the reaction we have so far, but again, we have to keep in mind we still need confirmation if these are just mercenaries or these are actually soldiers, official Chinese soldiers that are fighting on Russia's side. But this isn't the only Chinese involvement in Ukrainian territory. In fact, Chinese businessmen have been investing heavily in territories that are controlled by Russia but are in fact Ukrainian territories. Chinese investment and equipment have been flowing into these territories to set up new mines and new factories. Before moving forward, if you guys can please hit that subscribe button down below to keep up with all the geopolitical news like this one. Let's begin. Russia has the same goal as Ukraine when it comes to getting foreign investment into these territories. The whole point of the minerals deal is to have the US business interests tied with Ukrainian sovereignty. So if Russia decides to come back with another invasion, or I guess I should call it special military operation, then US has some skin in the game. US has something to lose, and that means it will go further to defend the Ukrainian sovereignty and Ukrainian territories. Now, Russia is doing something similar, but with China. Russia wants Chinese money, Chinese businesses to flow into these territories that Russia controls. Then Russia knows that China will have skin in the game, and China will put up more of a fight against the world for Russia, even if that means just diplomatically. Russia knows when it comes to negotiations, there's a chance that Europe and US may push for Russia to back up some of the territories, to give back some of the territories. And that's exactly when Russia needs a superpower like China on its side to protect Russian interests and protect the Chinese money that's in these territories, Ukrainian territories that are just annexed by Russia. All the while this is happening, Ukrainian drone industry just keeps on innovating. Their latest drone is not something that's deadly on the battlefield, but rather is something that's deadly on the Russian networks. This drone can hack into Russian systems, computer systems, and infect it with a virus that destroys the whole thing. Here I have none other than former Navy SEAL Chuck Farr breaking this down. This is our new series, Downrange.
On the Zero Line in Donetsk, a frontline Russian position braces for a Ukrainian drone strike. The snarl of the engines comes closer, and then a Ukrainian FPV wobbles, pitches down, and crashes 50 meters in front of the Russian trench line. As they approach the wreckage, the Russians can see the drone's RPG warhead stuck in a mud puddle, a dud. They render the explosive safe and scurry back to headquarters with their prize, a state-of-the-art Ukrainian FPV drone brought down by Russian electronic warfare, or so they think. Over the course of a week, a dozen other Ukrainian drones fall short of targets and are quickly scavenged by Russian units in Luhansk, Kupiansk, Chasiv Yar, and Kherson. Each time the Russians are delighted to grab a crashed Ukrainian drone to get a peek at the latest tech. But it turns out that capturing these drones was part of a plan, a Ukrainian plan, and the Russians will rue the day they ever left their dugout. These captured Ukrainian drones weren't just wreckage, they were Trojan horses, packed with malicious firmware that's now infecting Russian systems. The virus is spreading like a digital plague through Russia's drone fleet, FPVs, and even their high-altitude strike platforms. The first Trojan horse was used against the city of Troy by Odysseus back in 1200 BCE. Likewise, for the Russians, the gifts on offer were too cool to resist, but some Russians were suspicious. Back at Troy, the Greeks had an ace in the hole, and the Ukrainians may have one as well. Little known fact, in the city of Troy was a Greek turncoat named Sinon, a fake defector and double agent working for Odysseus. It was Sinon who convinced the Trojans that the horse left at their gate was a tribute and a peace offering, an idol that would bring victory to Troy. Sinon urged them to take the horse into the fortress, and the rest is history. Did Ukraine's SBU have a high-placed agent within Russia's drone program? Did a Ukrainian double agent make the decision to start recycling Ukrainian drones? We may never know. But a mistake this big, this far-reaching, and possibly war-winning, well, epic fails like this, they seldom happen by accident. In the grinding, high-tech slugfest that is the Russo-Ukrainian war, the battlefield is as much a proving ground for innovation as it is a graveyard for hubris. The latest twist in this context comes straight out of a cyberpunk thriller. Russia, in its desperation to keep pace with Ukraine's relentless drone onslaught, ordered frontline Vatniks to scavenge all downed Ukrainian aerial vehicles. Well, they went at it like buzzards picking at roadkill. The Russian plan? Reverse engineer Ukrainian weapons, repurpose them, and turn Kyiv's own tools against its defenders. It's a classic Moscow move, arrogant, opportunistic, and short-sighted. But the Kremlin's recycling scheme has backfired in a way that's as poetic as it is karmic. As they poured over the captured Ukrainian drones, Russian techies downloaded the firmware, copied the flight controls, and cable dumped it into their own drones. They even recycled the spare parts, motors, switches, hard drives, cameras, the whole time spreading malicious bits of code that would spell disaster for their own flying machines. Then things literally started to go sideways. This wasn't just a tactical misstep, it's been a full-on catastrophe for Putin's war machine. And for Ukraine, it's a masterstroke of asymmetric warfare that proves once again why Kyiv's scrappy ingenuity keeps outpunching Moscow's lumbering might. So let's break it down. Ukraine's drone program now churns out over 2.2 million units a year, with a target this year of 4.5 million. Drones have become the backbone of Ukrainian defense, shredding Russian armor, disrupting supply lines, and forcing Moscow's troops to watch their overhead cover. For months, as ordered, Russian forces have been scooping up all the husks of Ukrainian drones in Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, Kursk, and everywhere else on the Zero Line. And these weren't just your garden variety quadcopters. In the Ukrainian mix were sophisticated FPV drones, 6-engine heavy-lift Baba Yagas, and fiber-optic guided strike drones, as well as long-range kamikaze UAVs. Russia was delighted. The Kremlin, facing its own production bottlenecks and a sanctioned, strangled tech sector, saw an opportunity. Why buy or build when you could steal from the best? Social media clips show Russian technicians prying open Ukrainian drones, plugging them into their systems, and dissecting their flight controls and navigation modules. The Russian goal was twofold: harvest tech secrets to bolster their own drone designs, and, where possible, recycle the drones for redeployment against Ukrainian lines. It's a page ripped from the Soviet playbook: cannibalize the enemy's gear and claim the spoils. But this time, with the spoils came a sting. What the Russians didn't count on was Ukraine's foresight. Kyiv's drone engineers, those unsung mega-geek heroes in basement workshops and secret factories, well, they'd lace their UAVs with a hidden payload. Malware so insidious it makes WannaCry looked like junk email. Each drone the Russians recycled was deadly, a slowly dissolving poison pill set to kick in the moment the Russian techs hooked them up to their network. The Ukrainian malware doesn't just disable infected drones. Each compromised platform turns into a disease vector, a carrier for a digital contagion that leaps from system to system, platform to platform, corrupting everything it touches. The first signs of trouble came in late March, when Russian drone operators in occupied Donbass reported glitches. Flight paths went haywire, targeting data scrambled, and some Russian UAVs actually returned to base and went off in the hideouts of the drone operators. At first, Moscow chalked it up to Ukrainian jamming. Kyiv's electronic warfare units have been a thorn in Russia's side since day one. But then the problem spread. A video posted to Telegram showed a Russian Lancet loitering munition, spiraling out of control, and slamming into a Vatnik position near Torets. But it wasn't just Russian Lancets and FPVs that were targeted. Ukraine went for the gold. The Orion is one of Russia's prized UCAV systems, a wannabe Predator knockoff that's a blue-chip asset in Russia's drone fleet. Another video, geolocated to Kursk, captures an Orion UCAV in the throes of a Ukrainian hack. The Russian operator's horror is palpable. You can hear the panic in his voice as he curses along to the grainy footage. The video showed the big machine suddenly pulling a wing over and lopping into a multi-G turn. As it dived, the Orion's engine suddenly went screaming at full power. Amid the Russian swear words, the $5 million drone smashes nose first into a forest. The kicker, this wasn't a one-off. The Ukrainian malware is contagious and capable of species hopping, infecting a widening variety of Russian platforms, the Orion being only the latest. Ukraine's digital gift package is designed to hop from the infected Ukrainian drone to any Russian system it interfaces with. Flight controllers, ground stations, even other drones flying elsewhere in the Russian network. Think of it as a digital xenomorph, a cyber threat that is mobile, flexile, and hostile. It ejects itself into every system it touches, a cascade of corrupted code, burning out USB ports, frying navigational modules, and turning Moscow's drone fleet into a flying junkyard. Ukrainian sources hint at the scale of the operation. We knew they'd try to steal our tech, one engineer said, so we gave them something extra to take home. That something extra is a masterpiece of cyber warfare, adaptive, resilient, and relentless. It doesn't just brick the hardware, it exploits vulnerabilities in Russia's notoriously patchwork systems, many of which rely on outdated software and jury-rigged components thanks to Western sanctions. Once the malware takes root, it phones home, feeding Ukrainian intel a treasure trove of data on Russian drone ops, locations, frequencies, and even operator habits before self-destructing in a blaze of digital chaos. Some variants are capable of sleeping in Russian systems, innocuous chunks of code waiting to be activated by time signal or command, silent, waiting, deep in Russian software, as malignant as a tumor. The contagion has hit Russians' indigenous strike vehicles hardest. These are the pale horses accompanying every Vatnik meat wave. These assaults, wave after wave of expendable troops, backed up by Russia's UAVs, all reliant on drones to spot targets, drop bombs, and keep Ukrainian forces pinned. But none of that is working any. And the drones, falling left and right, Russian troop losses are mounting, and with production stalled, every downed or malfunctioning Russian drone stings. The malware's reach is staggering, a testament to Ukraine's ability to turn a defensive play into an offensive gut punch. Even the Shahed 136, Iran's gift to Putin, isn't immune. Russian crews have reported that these kamikaze drones veer off course or detonate in midair after maintenance at infected bases. The Lancet, Zala's pride and joy, fares no better. Its $30,000 price tag looks like a bad joke when it's doubling back to attack its Russian controller. The Kremlin's response has been predictably ham-fisted. Russia is rushing to deploy cybersecurity measures and antivirus software, but robots aren't going to fix a problem that's been programmed to hide out, lie low, and then strike at the worst possible time. Ukraine's coders aren't sitting still. They're already iterating, crafting malware variants to outpace Moscow's defensive. This isn't just a static fight. It's a race, and Kyiv's lean, agile teams are lapping Russia's bloated bureaucracy. It's easy to predict an escalation. More sophisticated Ukrainian hacks will work their way up the food chain, targeting command and control networks, backdoors for intel grabs, and maybe even the sabotage of Russia's vaunted S-400 air defense complex. If that happens, the skies over occupied Ukraine could get a lot friendlier for Kyiv's pilots. For Ukraine, this has been a triumph of brains over brawn. Outgunned and outmanned, Kyiv has leaned hard into asymmetric warfare. Drones, electronic warfare, and now cyber on the battlefield. And it's paying off. The Trojan horse gambit isn't just about wrecking Russian drones, it's about sowing chaos, eroding morale, buying time for Ukraine's own production to scale. With a goal of 4.5 million drones this year, Kyiv's factories are a juggernaut that Moscow just can't match. Every Russian UCAV that crashes is one less threat to Ukraine's lines, one less bomb that can fall on its cities. And every infected system is a reminder, don't mess with a nation that's fighting for its life. Russia thought it could plunder Ukraine's tech and get away with it. Instead, it's caught a virus it can't shake, a digital cancer eating the guts out of its war machine. For Putin, it's going to be an endless bummer. The drones he coveted are now his undoing. For Ukraine, this has been a signal to the world. Kyiv's not just surviving, it's outsmarting the bear at every turn. As the sun sets over the Donets River, somewhere beneath the cellar of a wrecked building, in a deep, safe bunker, a Ukrainian coder is grinning at a screen full of corrupted targeting data. To Russia with love. The bottom line, if you're an invader, you should beware of Ukrainians bearing gifts.
YouTube just dropped a mind-boggling announcement. It is paying creators $64 million per day. Why? Well, because YouTube doesn't have enough creators right now. That's why you see videos on your homepage that have less than 1,000 views, like this one. Now, of course, that doesn't mean everyone should start a channel. But if you have ever wondered about starting a YouTube channel or a faceless channel, now is the perfect time. YouTube is paying creators millions every single day, and it's pushing newer and smaller channels now more than ever. But I'm sure you have many questions on how to start and grow a channel. I get these questions in my email all the time from some of you guys. That's why we have decided to put all our YouTube advice into one training bootcamp for completely free. So if you're someone interested in starting your own YouTube channel, you can sign up for this bootcamp by clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code on your screen. This bootcamp is like a Zoom call, so it is limited to 100 people at a time. So be sure to sign up before it gets full. Now back to the video.